Hello. Make sure that's all working. How we looking? Seems okay. Big up, mate. Still think we got a squad more than capable top 4. Don't think you're wrong. Don't think you're wrong. Daniel is disappointed with the transfer window, and this meant to be a 4-window plan. Can't even get a striker. Sporting director and ownership failed. Joe Shields is a goat, but the only one you can trust. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that because a very heavy part of this being a Joe Shields led target. I know most people are angry about the Osimhen deal, but given how his agent has conducted himself in this saga, I'm okay with not breaking. Depends to what degree, doesn't it? Because we don't know the full story. We don't know what was offered. There's been briefs that it was offered way below. There's been briefs that it was offered a fairly close fee with a lot of add-ons to make it sort of up to his Napoli. It depends what side of that is true. Because some of the briefed amounts are far too low, in my opinion, and a bit silly. But I do mostly agree. I agree with not breaking the structure to an extent, but like I said, it depends. It depends what you offered him, because I do think he is groundbreakingly would have changed this entire squad. But we'll talk about that. Osimhen is finished at Napoli. He won't be playing until January. Yeah, I just saw that. He's out of the Serie A squad, isn't he? And Lukaku took his number 9. So, which he expected. So either he takes a move to Saudi in the next few days, which is still very possible. Different Saudi club, or he stays put at Napoli and tries to get a move in January, or he ends up with a loan in January, which again I can't see Napoli doing, because then he becomes a free agent. So then he can literally have the pick of any clubs at 26 years old, and he'll get a hefty signing on bonus. It's going to be interesting. Osimhen's going to be one of those stories again for the next year. Premier Khalid. Connor, can you please show how to learn proper tactic breakdowns? So obviously I went to uni to study all sort of like coaching, analysis, things like that. Then I coached for a few years. Then I worked in some club, like with some clubs, doing bits and writing online. So book wise, there's quite a few. Inverting the Pyramid, I think, is one of them that's really good. There's a few others I can't think of the names of now, but I'll try and tweet out a few books that I think are worth reading on my Twitter, because there is a few good ones. But just consuming as much content as you can, learning, and more about trying to understand why things are happening rather than just sort of like banking the knowledge. So like rather than just watching something and thinking, right, now now I've had that explained to me. That's happened. Can you listen and then understand and comprehend why they've done that, and sort of take it to the next level of understanding? You're almost trying to, rather than just consume, you're trying to learn. It would be my best advice. And this is literally just called tacticalboard.com, this one here. It's quite faint, I think, on the screen, but tacticalboard.com. If you put that in, which is a good free tactics board to use. Do you like Joe Shields? I absolutely love him. I think he's class. He's absolutely class. I just don't get why Osimhen's camp didn't opt for a loan with an option to buy. I still think it was the wages, honestly, but it's just like it's tough. I don't think we're really going to find out. And like from what Fabrizio was saying last night of how intense it got, who knows? It does just seem like we were waiting until the last minute to try and get him on an absolute steal, because it would have been his only. Like I think they wanted to almost pressure him into taking a massive wage cut, because it would have been his only option, almost, which isn't really a great look. Can we never deal with Napoli again in January if we go back for Osimhen? Yeah, it's awkward, isn't it? I mean, I want Osimhen. It's hard, but again, I don't know if Napoli was the biggest issue, so it's really tough. Not getting Osimhen's fair enough. It happens. I feel like we didn't spend enough time on outgoings, though. Yeah, the outgoings are an issue, but obviously we've got the a few of the other markets open currently: Turkish, Portuguese, Dutch, I believe. So yeah, we've got a few ways of getting a few more players out, maybe a few loans, maybe Chilwell somewhere, Datra Fafana, etc. But what I've got on screen is pretty much the squad that I think we're going to be working with most of this season. Obviously, I've got a few sort of Cat and Cassidy in this sort of group of players that will and won't be in the squad based on. I was watching your stream on Playback. I wasn't on Playback yesterday. Do you mean Con and Pice? That's a different Con, if that's what you mean with Pice on Playback. Chelsea Central. Wouldn't call it a false nine gimmick, and if they do play here, it won't be as a false nine, but it will just be as that sort of centre forward role where they sometimes have to drop into here, like you say, which is what a false nine does, but dropping in and these players playing nice and high and wide. So yeah, it can work. We saw it even against, I think it was Servette last week in the 2-0 win. Palmer did it a little bit. And even when Guy was playing, he was that as well. He was there. But yeah, it definitely can. It's one of Maresca's sort of two ways of using a centre forward. So the two ways usually would be either stretching with runs into all sorts of channels, or dropping into here to create this sort of pentagon build up, and then if anything, drop it off to these guys who can all face forwards. So you still and then ideally a player that can do all of them. So the ideal is Jackson. Like, this is why I'm not so disheartened, and we're going to get onto the squad build now. So I'll go over a few questions again in a minute. And again, this is more so just overall, so it's not just to do with Kuka. And I also just think his aggression in this area of the pitch is stronger. Deep line forward in that wall second half. Yeah, they play like that role, but it's not really like. I think the term of false nine now is more like, it's more used for, how can I put it, a player that is not, and like obviously a false nine. So say Foden plays as a 9, or Palmer plays as a 9. Jackson playing as a 9, he's not playing as a false 9, he's just playing as a 9, and he's coming in to do jobs. Like, he's doing the job of a 9.5 and a sort of thing. Like, he's dropping in to do this job, and then he's also extending to do this job. So he's doing both, but he's still primary, his role is still a 9. So I understand what you mean. But where was I going with it? So the overall squad build for me, I actually think it's a really strong squad. And we're going to talk about Sancho, and we're going to talk about Felix and these guys. But just to get it over with, obviously the main one was Osimhen. The reason I wanted him so badly is because let's do what we've done a few times this season already, and let's create sort of the depth chart, because I think it's important to view the depth that you've got in each sort of position. Whoops. Which can get a bit finicky. Just to make. Let's do that. Let's do that. Something like this, right? Depth chart. We'll talk about Osimhen and why I wanted him within that striker group. But people have been saying, obviously, like Neto can be on the right, but just bear with me for now whilst I just put it on screen of how I would sort of have it. And it's not to do with I want Sancho playing on the right. It's not to do with I want Neto playing on the left. It's just to create almost what the depth could look like. I'll leave Guy there for now because we're going to discuss that. Okay. So this is the depth chart. Let's put it like that. What Osimhen would have given you that Guiu doesn't necessarily is, of course, and that's what I've been saying all summer. I think we needed was a box striker. I'm not going to even go too far into it because I've said it all summer. I know, like, a lot of you will know what I'm talking about. A striker that drags players away with them. He's a threat in the box. He's a bully, and he's going to make it life difficult for defenders and create space around them for these arriving players, just purely of their presence. You're not going to need that in every game, so it's not going to be a massive issue in all games. My issue with it is when you do need that, teams are sitting off deep. Jackson dropping into this hole isn't doing anything. It's not helping because you need box presence in a game where you're 0-0 and you can't find the breakthrough. Guiu is now that guy that we have to turn to. So, in that sense, it just leaves a lack of what we needed overall in the squad, whether that was Osimhen, whether that was Duran, in my opinion, whether that was even a short-term option. But somebody to turn to off the bench who would have given us more of a box threat late in games when you need a bully in the box to create space for these other arriving players. That's what we're going to lack now, okay? So let's get rid of Osimhen. That's what I just wanted to get out of the way. That is the biggest part of why I wanted that striker in the door. The rest of the build of the squad, I think, is really good. I think it's really good. Sorry, I was just reading on the chats. I think that's a really good squad. And I think the good part about it is, of course, you can have all these players in different roles and you can move them around. So, of course, like I say, if let's go with Tosin, for example, can play right centre back. I prefer him as a central centre back, but it would then depend on who plays where. So, obviously, if you're going to have him as the central centre back, somebody else has to play as the right centre back and the left centre back, for example. So, again, it's been Disassi as of late. And again, I don't think that's great. But my point being is these players can move around. Enzo can play deeper if you want him to, especially with the wingers. Sancho can play here, Neto can play here. So if you want to play Sancho and Madueke, fine. If you want to play Sancho and Neto, fine. If you want to play Madueke and Neto, which I think is that should be, and the reason I've put it like this for now is because I think the starting wingers should be for now Madueke and Neto. Sancho and Mudryk will get their chances, and I think Sancho is actually quite a good move at the price, personally. And we doesn't need to be on a permanent in January because it's already a loan with obligation, so he's already going to be permanent after that. Cassidy, yeah, he can fit in around several roles. Gives you that physicality. So like you say, could go in here with Enzo, could play in either of the eights. Really, can just be sort of a late sub. So that's why I've sort of included him with these young players here. Losing out on Osimhen definitely set the plan back a bit. It's just the fact they haven't addressed the striker other than Guiu. Like, it makes you think that if they don't do it in January and there does become a ban, which we have no idea about, how is City able to do it sometimes without Haaland? Well, no, that's the point. They have Haaland, so that he does give them that. And then if he isn't fit, then of course they have to find another way. But what previous comment did I miss? My problem with the depth chart is that realistically Enzo's on his own in there. No, I think KDH is definitely Enzo's backup, and then I think the other side maybe would be like that. Felix, Kerr, and Kunku, Carney all in the other. I definitely think KDH is that backup for sure. We needed a big 9 instead of Felix. But yeah, and that's another thing I didn't mention. Felix, of course, can play here and Kunku can play here. And you can sort of like mix that around as well. But in terms of profiles, it's not even about positions. It's about profiles and what they offer you. Does Arsenal have a number 9? No, but they have a dueling number 9 who's good in the air in Havertz. Like, he offers the... What's the words to give you? Because he's not the same type of bully, but he offers similar assets to what you want. It shouldn't really be like, are they a big number 9 or are they this, are they that? It should be what assets can each position give you. We've got 1v1 wingers. We've got wingers that can go inside and outside. I actually really like the configuration of these 4 wingers because you've got direct, like Mudryk, a bit more direct. Madueke, the most direct. Sancho actually adds to these wingers a little bit more of a slow, creative, sort of incisive part of the winger. Sort of a bit more like Elise than for example, a Neto or a Madueke, in terms of he slows the ball down, he's got a bit more of a creative passing range, he'll sort of pull strings and make things happen at his tempo. Um, so I don't mind the addition of Sancho. I think that could genuinely work quite well, especially at the price. And yeah, and I have touched on this. It just depends who's playing because right now I would like Neto and Madueke to be the starters. But I agree, Sancho would probably be better on the left as well. In which case, you could go Sancho and Neto. You could then go Sancho and Madueke. You could go Neto and Madueke. You could go Madrid. Like it just depends on who's playing. But the reason I've got it like this to begin with is because I want Neto and Madueke currently should be the two that are starting. Sancho is a different profile to what we have, but he is not suited to the wingers that Maresca likes to use. No, see, I disagree. Um, he's don't get me wrong, he's not like as hardworking as a Madueke, even a Neto, etc. But he's still very good 1v1. He slows that ball down. He's as much of a Maresca winger. He's still a 1v1 winger, but he's less direct and more sort of calculated with his movements. He'll drift inside, he'll connect with players. I actually think Sancho and Palmer could make a really good little dynamic, similar to what Madueke and Palmer have here. And also on the other side, though, Sancho being sort of this left isolated winger could work really well with like a Dewsbury Hall. So, and again, Dewsbury Hall wouldn't be starting often. So again, it just depends on what game you're in. Somebody did ask here, where is it? Lavi and Casado at DM, yeah, both class. KDH not putting up trees, and somebody asked me what I think about the KDH signing. Overall, I'm not like overly impressed by it. I said at the time, and I still stand by with what I think it is. Um, I think it's just a floor raiser. I think it's a floor raising signing. I think he knows what he's doing in the system. As much as I've not been impressed with his actual on ball qualities during like the games that he's played for us so far, I do think that his understanding of where to be is very good, and his runs, even his little like dynamic with Mudryk against Servette the other day, it did look good. It's just that both of them are so mistake prone that it just wasn't connecting. But you could see what they were trying to do, and I think they were on the same wavelength. It's just that their touches were just poor. Um, but I don't hate the KDH signing because I do still think it's going to help raise the floor of this team. But I would prefer those minutes to go to Carney, honestly, in terms of talent. But we'll see. I don't think it's a bad piece to have in the squad, put it that way. I don't think it's as bad as some people are making out, but I also don't think it's brilliant. Thoughts on Felix and Kunku playing up front? I think Jackson and Kunku could oddly benefit from this as well as Cassidy. I think Jackson, obviously, like Jackson's going to be the number one now, done, and I'm quite happy about that. Like, I mean, I'm not happy because we didn't get Osimhen, but for example, a lot of people might not like this. I didn't want so I was reading chat again. I didn't want Tony really. I would have took him, and I think it would have benefited the squad. So it's sort of like contradictory because I do think, as I was saying with Osimhen, I think if this is Tony, I think you have a very good balance. My worry would have been if Tony joined, he would have had to start. And again, that's from what I think the board would have done. If you give me Jackson and Tony, I'd rather start Jackson. Whereas if you give me Jackson and Osimhen, I'd rather start Osimhen. So I my way of looking at it was I want Osimhen, and if we don't get Osimhen, I want to prioritize Jackson, and I want to add a third striker who can challenge and give other assets. So mainly would have been Duran for me, would have been my second choice. And again, like I said, Tony would have been down there as like my sort of third, fourth choice, but it would have been on the terms that Jackson's still the starter, which I don't think would have happened, and that would have worried me a bit. Even when Chelsea's in defensive shape, it's easy to play past for our midfield. We'll speak about that. I do think it's more so when we're not in defensive shape. Because, like I say, when we're in sort of a 4-1-4-1 passive shape, as long as this DM is like one of these two, especially when it's been Lavia, it's just they are covering the ground really well. The aggressive fullbacks can jump out, and again, it depends. At that point, it more so comes down to the pressure that the eights can put on. So I think there's been some games where the eights have been at it and they've put the pressure on from the get go. And then there's been some games where it's been a bit poor. Something that Felix actually did really well when he came on in the eight against Wolves. He was actually putting good pressure on the ball to stop that ball becoming active to play through the lines. which is important. Isn't Tony better than Jackson? His finishing is better, absolutely. I think if you were starting with Tony as your number one, I think you'd have lacked a little bit of mobility. I think you would have lacked a little bit of sort of stretching in behind and athleticism. I think he would have gained box presence, which is exactly what I've been asking for. But he's more of a box presence that doesn't quite offer the same transitional threat. So for me, it would have been, if you sign Tony, you're looking to play him in the last 30 minutes to get that sort of box bullying once you've already established your authority in the game. Whereas Osimhen can do all of it. So yeah, I'm excited to see Felix play in the advanced 8-10 role. I would also like to see him in the false nine. He's a decent header of the ball. He looked brilliant when he came on against Wolves. And I keep saying this as well, and I'm going to go over it again. Hang on, what? Tony is to Kane what Bowen is to Saka. Similar profiles. Both like to drop deep and link up play. Yeah, he does drop deep and link up play again. Like I say, I just don't think it would have benefited everybody as much as people were making out. It would have been an okay signing, don't get me wrong. And it would have added experience. It would have added a proven goal scorer in the Prem. Again, even that is taken to a little bit of an extreme with penalties. But like I say, I'd rather focus on Jackson if we're not going to get Osimhen. Is it over for Madrid? I still think he's got this season. Let's see how Maresca takes to him. I think he's going to sort of keep doing what he's doing, giving him minutes where he can, giving him and trying to work on exactly what he thinks going wrong. I do think no matter what, right now, I think Medric's getting a lot of attention from Maresca. Whether that's good or bad, we'll see. But I think the fact he's getting the attention is a sign that this season is make or break, because Maresca is clearly trying to work on something with him. So we'll see. And I'm glad about that. I think it's a good fit. Where do you rank our attack in the league? Probably third. Maybe fourth behind Liverpool. I'm not sure, actually. No, I think we've probably got... No, I think maybe third. Maybe third. And even then, in depth, we've probably got a better forward line than Arsenal in terms of overall depth. One thing I do just want to point out there, because I do want to make sure I've said it, I didn't want Sterling to stay. I did want him gone, and I'm happier with these four wingers than I was with Sterling. But please don't be surprised if he goes and smashes it at Arsenal, because it is a far better environment for him to succeed. I said this with Havertz, and I said Havertz was going to succeed at Arsenal, and everybody laughed, and he did. There's a good chance Sterling succeeds at Arsenal, but that doesn't mean we're wrong for moving him on, because he wasn't going to work for us, and he weren't going to provide us with exactly what we needed. But I do think there's a good chance he helps Arsenal in what they needed. So just want to put that out there. Don't be surprised. We've got players coming in 2025, yeah. And of course, like I say, I've got these youngsters here. The reason I put these guys here, George, I'd love to just see get minutes, but we'll see about him. The big one for me is Acheampong. If Fofana gets injured, apart from the striker thing that we've already spoke about, my other worry is if Fofana gets injured. I'm not overly keen on either of these as the wide centre-backs. I don't mind tossing. Honestly, the two defenders I'm most worried about are these two. Obviously, Badiashile wouldn't be playing as a right centre-back, but Badiashile and Disasi are the two that I'm most worried about. Honestly, I'd want Acheampong to be getting minutes over Disasi if it was to be like this. But it's not going to happen. But that's why I put him there, because that's what I'd like to see. I think that's the best way of covering Fofana's absence, now that you've also got rid of Chalobah, who would have been the better backup for Fofana. So that's something else. So where do I rank our defence? That leads us on to... See, I still rate our defence, our first choice defence, a little higher than some people do. Obviously, goalkeeper's not brilliant, but I was willing to sit on that this year, so I can't be too judgmental yet. I still fully believe that Fofana and Colwill can be one of the top partnerships in the Prem given time. I like Cucurella, he's been in good form. Gusto and Reece are both class. I'm not going to put a ranking on it, but just put it this way: I'm more worried about the depth, because, like I say, I'm not overly keen on Badiashile at the minute. I'm not overly keen on Disasi at the minute. Tossing, I don't mind, but again, it's more so for the value and sort of what he offers. Vega, I really like. So it's mainly sort of what we lack here, and if Achimpong comes in, then that takes it up another notch, in my opinion. But I think we could have done with another sort of a Diamande was the one I asked for all summer, wasn't it? I'm sure many of you know. But yeah. Paying for Sterling to help Arsenal win the league. Yeah, see, so on Wednesday I'm going to do a video because obviously next week is it'll be so we got our game tomorrow, then we'll have international break. So next week's videos will probably be a lot of I'll do the what do you call it? I'll do the things we learn video on Monday. Then Tuesday I'll probably do a tactics talk stream. Then Wednesday we're going to do a video ranking the transfer market. So that's why I'm not going too much into detail of like what I rank each signing because I'm going to do a video for that, and we'll talk about the outs in that video as well. But as you've said here, one of the worst bits of business and what takes our transfer window down a notch, in my opinion, is that Sterling deal. It's still good that we got him out. I'd still rather do what we did than keep him at the club and just put him in the reserves. I'd still rather be paying his wages, but him to actually get minutes somewhere, just on the chance that he can have a little bit of a swan song year and get his value, and then we can actually sell him. Again, not too good because it's Arsenal and we don't want them to do well, but good enough that we can sort of recoup a bit of value for him and actually make teams buy him despite that ridiculous wage. But where are we? But yeah, that is a poor bit of business, leaving that all the way to deadline day, pretty much giving ourselves like no wiggle room in terms of negotiations, and then they can just they had all the control in that negotiation room, all the control. Midfield, I rank it second for me, behind City, and even then, like Arsenal are close. And a lot of people will laugh at that. People obviously say, well, Arsenal's are way better because Rice and Ødegaard are further ahead in their development. But I just still think Lavia, Casado, Enzo, for me, those three, given another year, if they can all stay fit, are the second best midfield in the league. For me. I understand if people disagree, but I still rate all three of them exceptionally highly. Conference League draw, don't think too much about it. I just hope that, especially like to the long haul away days, Kazakhstan, I just hope we don't risk players that don't need risking. But apart from that, I'm okay with it. Hope Casado finds some form. Yeah, he's been a little bit rusty to start off, but I'm not worried about him overall. I think he takes a little bit of time. He was the one out of Enzo and Lavia. He was the third one of getting minutes in pre-season. He didn't get as much as the other two. So I'm not too worried about it. Let's just hope big game from him Sunday because we'll need him because obviously Lavia's out again. Right, so now we've done that, let's preview Palace. Let's sort of because I'm going to do it all in one today because I'm not going to have time to make a video for the Palace game. So I pretty much had the lineup. So I'm going to do it like this. Pretty much had the lineup as is. And then we'll answer some questions as well before we end the stream. We'll go for like another 20, half hour. So preview this game, speak about a few things. So I think, if I've got it right, this is the team I'd start. This is the team I'd start against Palace. So Neto coming in at left wing. Madueke keeps his spot right wing. The big omission here is Nkunku. So if I was to put, if there's one player that I'd sort of like want in this lineup that isn't, again, Felix on the bench, I think I'm very happy with. I think he would make a big difference coming off the bench if we need him. So Felix being on the bench is a big thing. Like, I'm not forgetting about him. I just think he'll be really good off the bench in this game as well. And Nkunku is the one. But having said that, I would start this team. How close is that to the teams you guys would put out against Palace? How's our midfield better than Arsenal's and Liverpool's? Arsenal's, like I say, I think Rice and Ødegaard are further ahead in their development, but I prefer Casado, Enzo, Lavia as a not even as a balance, but as a like longer term. I think that is a better investment. Investment's a tough word as well because we did overpay. I just think they're a better three. Put it that way. Liverpool, they don't have a six. Like, Liverpool, for me, isn't even a question. I think Liverpool would want all three of the players I'm talking about here. Casado, Lavia, Enzo. Definitely not. Arsenal, you can make the argument, and we could be third because of Rice and how good Rice is. But yeah, for me, Liverpool's not in the question. Mohamed, do you think that's perfect for the team? Yeah, I do too. According to my sources, Newcastle were going in for Disassi, but they changed their mind. Are you happy we kept him? Not really. Not really. I mean, I'm not like distraught because I do think he's a good character, but I just don't think he's fully suits the team. Started Neto, he had weeks. Yeah, he had the week off, didn't he? So yeah, that's why. Again, I want him to start on the left. Mudryk started on the left the other day. I want Neto to be on the left, Madueke to be on the right. It's pretty much bang on, except I'd consider inverting Kukre instead of Gusto. Not sure that factors go into the decision from the coach over which to invert. I think it's more so just to do with at this point of Madueke will track a little bit more. I mean, if Neto's on that side, Neto tracks well as well. So that's sort of a null and void point. I think Kukre is just better facing play in terms of being able to jump out and be aggressive on the ball. And he's also very good. Like he's got that bit more experience on when to jump and when to sit. Again, saying that he is very rash, but he's at the sort of experienced end of the spectrum compared to Augusto. Whereas Gusto, I think he's perfect in here as well because I prefer Gusto inverted because I think he's just got the athleticism to sort of connect passes and then sort of break out of the midfield. And I think he's got more of a drive to get us out of there. I think his carrying in the middle of the pitch is actually really quite a big part for us. So yeah, I like this dynamic, but I understand a lot of people like the idea of Kukure inverting because we saw it last year. And again, I'm not against it. I'm not against seeing this at times either because again, we will see this. We've already seen it, whether people have seen it or not. Like whether you've like noticed it with your eyes and whether you want to actually like put it on paper as a 2-3. This has happened quite a bit already. It's just that it's situational, so you won't always notice it. Oh, and hang on. Yeah, Gusto did also have the week off. Same with Neto. And as Rich Money's here, put everybody hit the like and subscribe to help grow the channel. Let's see what we're at. Haven't actually checked it yet. We're at 12 likes, but we've got 70 people watching, so we should 70 people on the YouTube, and then we got a couple of hundred on Twitter as well. So if everybody could smash a like, that'd be brilliant. That'd help a lot. Got 300 odd watching on Twitter, 70 on YouTube. The 2-3 happened a lot against City in the second half. Yeah, it did. Yeah, when we were sustaining a lot of pressure. Against Wolves as well, quite a few times. Before Enzo dropped into the sixth, and it became a tiny bit more passive. It's a go-to when we want to be aggressive. Exactly, when we want to sustain pressure in their half. And then that's the import. That's why it's kind of important to have two fullbacks that can do it, rather than say Disassi, who started against Servette, as one of the fullbacks because he can't quite put that same pressure on, and then if he does, he can't recover. Whereas with Gusto and Kukure, you have players that can be aggressive in both forward-facing and recovery runs, so in both types, rather than Disassi, who can't really. Do I have concerns about Mudryk? Not yet. Not yet. Oh, I think he'll be the fourth choice. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to fall down the pecking order. But I still think he'll get chances, and I think Maresca will work with him closely, and I still think the skill set's there. So let's see. Let's see. Hope you won the Conference League this year, and if you win it, you get Europa League. Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping we qualify for Champions League anyway. That's a good point because I'll put it in the chat because I did tweet this out. So I tweeted out pretty much the squad that I put on screen earlier with like the squad depth chart, and I asked people where do you think we'll finish. So put in the chat now, where do you think we'll finish in the league this year? I had a few. Let me go through the chats that I had on Twitter. So we had somebody said fourth or fifth. Where else? We had fourth, nothing below fourth, third. Squad's enough for top four, third. So a lot of top four, like still a lot of people with this squad were saying fourth. We had a few thirds and we had a few fifths, but the common answer was fourth. What would you guys say in the chat? Let me have a look. What we're saying. We've got fourth, fifth, sixth, eighth. Wow. Really? Fifth, fourth, sixth, third to sixth. I think that's fair. fifth or sixth for no striker. Sixth. I need to see what happens if we get. So my prediction at the start of the year was fifth. More so because of how long it's going to take. I personally think we have the fourth best squad. I think we should be getting fourth, but I just think it dependent on injuries and sort of morale at the time because of the youth of the team. So I do think we'll come. It's fourth or fifth for me. They're the two positions. Sunday saying second. Fair enough. Yeah, for me, I think the squad lacks lots of profiles to get top four. I think it only lacks the striker profile, really, for me. Like the rest of it, profiling wise, isn't too bad. Maybe a destroyer in the middle, but you can sort of cover that up with the quality we've got in Casado and Lavia. Um, this is true. Two injuries in the back line and we're finished. I don't disagree with that. And again, that's why injuries sort of play a part. I think injuries go against us, we come fifth. I think injuries come for us, we come fourth. I think that they're the two. I think that's the two ways it can sort of spin. That depends whether if they get Champions League football, that will depend on the coefficients. So it depends how the English teams do, basically. But I wouldn't be betting on it. I'd be aiming for fourth either way. That's the other thing. Like for me, Maresca, I don't agree with relegation, but it's not brilliant. He's not like top. He's not a title winning keeper, but I also don't think he's relegation scrap either. Sending Chalobah was a really bad idea. Yeah, literally on a dry loan, I find really strange because he would for me would have been Fofana starts and then Chalobah's your backup is how I would have it. But of course, they see him as easier to get rid of than Disassi. But then if you're just going to do a straight loan, no fee, well, there might have been a small fee, but no obligation and no option. Surely Newcastle would have took Disassi on those terms on a literal dry loan. So you could have just done it the other way around. Dry loan Disassi to Newcastle, keep Chalobah as Fofana's backup. That would have been perfect. But they'd already made their bed with him, it seems. So you think fourth comfortably, lacks a box dominant nine, a space eating midfielder. Casado and Lavia are different types of space eating midfielder, so I agree and disagree because I do think they did negate it in the squad building. I do think Ugachukwu is the other version of that, so I do think Ugachukwu long term will offer that too. An aggressive defender, again, it's more so if you lose Fofana. He is the aggressive defender, but I do think you could have done with another one. Balanced left back, I'm fine with. I think Kukure is very balanced, and I think Vega's a great backup. Goalkeeper, I agree. Top class goalkeeper, yeah, that's true. And the box dominant nine, massively. Jorgensen really worried me last game. The goal that he conceded that a lot of people are going for, though, he did trip. Like on the pitch was terrible. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's extremely promising or anything. Like there's certain things I like about him and there's certain things I don't like about him. But I'm not looking too much into the Servette game because that pitch was poor and he definitely saves that second goal if he doesn't trip literally just before. You'd feel more confident if we got striker. That's fair. Lorenzo's key contributions to our attack play in that left 8-10. So he's more. So again, when he drops into this pocket here, he'd sort of create this 3, and 4, which is the best thing. So again, when he gets in this pocket, he can. It's just that sort of ability to play through the lines and just that expansion of passing that more or less no other player in the team has. That's what I think his key contributions are. He also his timing of runs. His football IQ is very high, so he knows exactly if he knows that if he drops into here, he'll take a man with him. Shouldn't use blue since we're the blue. He'll take a man with him, and again he can open up this space for Palmer to receive the ball. And Palmer's the sort of player you want to get on the ball. So I think if you can have these two, the only problem is with these two obviously as the eights, you need them to work a tiny bit harder as a pair. Luckily, Neto and Madueke, if they're the two wingers, are very hard working. So that slightly will negate that, but the pressure still needs to be put on in the eights. But that's the main thing from Enzo. I think it's just sort of his understanding, his pitch IQ, and then, like I say, his passing range and expansion from there. Lack of height, yeah, you're not wrong. Just hope we have a caliber clause. Oh, cool. Callback clause on Chalobah. Yeah, I doubt it, but I'd hope so. Assuming you mean tomorrow's game. Genuine question: what do you see in Jackson? pretty much everything other than composure in the box and box presence, which is exactly what I meant in what we needed. But I think he's brilliant dropping into here. He can drive the team forward, little flicks, like his actual link up play to then release those eights when you sort of create this shape. And Jackson is his like little spins into these spaces or little flicks into those areas here. That's just like his ability to do that is outstanding. And again, he'll stretch play. He'll run in behind here. He'll run in behind here. He'll run the channels. He'll pull out. He'll drop in. He's in that sense he's perfect. It's just that again sometimes he lacks that little bit of sort of finesse and composure in the box. But I'm a big fan of Jackson. Honestly, I do think I do really like him. I think that we could have done with an addition to push him and to add a little bit more of a box present striker for crossing and for when you're against low blocks and things like that. But honestly, I think Jackson, I've said it a few times, I think Jackson for me, if he bulks up a tiny bit on his upper body and he becomes more composed, he's got the skill set of a Gyökeres from Sporting. He's got that skill set. It's just that he's obviously like the composure is miles apart at the minute, and that's why Gyökeres is scoring so many goals because his composure is at a ridiculously high level compared to Jackson, and he's a bit more bulky up top, and which gives him a bit more presence in the box anyway. Antonio is more aggressive. Yeah, he's a bit of a mixture for me of Thiago Silva and Romero from Tottenham. He's got sort of the aggression of Romero in the tackle and sort of the timing, but then like on the ball, if you watch him, he's very Thiago Silva, very sort of poised. Antonio is very good. Him and Esteval this window very much boost my ratings for how we performed in the transfer market because they're two excellent additions. Sorry, I missed this one. Where is it? Tomorrow's game will be crucial. Palace haven't still won a game. Will be coming hard. Want to see how Maresca handle the pressure. Yeah, I'm gonna put out later tonight. I'm gonna put out a tactical preview on Twitter. So it won't be a video. But it'll be a thread on Twitter about how Palace sort of press, how Chelsea can sort of navigate that press, and just a few things to expect. So if you follow me on Twitter, or if you don't already, go follow over there because then I'll post that bit later today. And again, that will sort of have the preview of who I think will play, pretty much the team I've got on screen now, and how that will be affected by Palace's tactical setup. Where else are we? First Conference League game, would I go strong or rotate? Probably rotate the first game. It all depends on how like the games around it have been going. And it depends who needs minutes. If somebody's been injured for a while and they need a few minutes, give them minutes. If players need rest, you give them rest. I think it's all dependent. I don't think it's as simple as Conference League, play 11 different players. I think it is more so to do with use your squad wisely and give people minutes who need minutes. Hello, Jonathan. Thank you for the sub, man. That's appreciated. If anybody else is in the YouTube, we're up to nearly 70 concurrent on YouTube viewers. Let me check how many likes. We've got 27 likes, but we've got 70 people watching. So if everybody could drop a like, we can at least get that to 50. We can at least double that. We can at least double that 27 and get it to at least 50. I know that's not double, but at least 50. Let's aim. Don't work defensively. This is in possession. Out of possession, it would be a 4-1-4-1 / 4-3-3. How it's been the whole time. Yeah, massively disagree with that. Hugely disagree with that, but fair enough. So I assume Cole and Anselmino would have the right balance. It would. I still think Fofana, if he stays fit, I love that pairing. But yeah, it would have the correct balance with Anselmino being more of an aggressor, Cole being the more sort of passive leader, and that's why I like him in the central centre back. He can sort of cover behind. He can be the man on the ball. I think this is just a perfectly balanced partnership given time in terms of, like I say, Fofana more aggressive, but it's just the timings and things still have to be sort of on point, and they're learning that on the fly. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Why isn't Kunku not starting? Somebody said. Can't see it there. Pretty much just because like I said, I've got him over here because if there's anybody on the bench that should be, or at least in contention to be in this, it's also Nkunku. But um, I don't know who else I'd drop, because I think everybody else in this team is the perfect team to play against Palace. And I think based on form, like, you can't drop Endo in my opinion. I think he's been, like, a lot of people are not happy with him, but I think he's been really good under Maresca. I think he'd, like, there's been a few poor moments, but I think he's been important. Palmer, of course, and then, like I say, you need that defensive coverage in Casado. There's no Lavia, fullbacks. I would start Jackson. I think you need the ability to go both ways. And Kunku and Felix for me would have to come from the bench in this game. Do you see Enzo Maresca playing a diamond or a box midfield against Palace? Probably a box rather than, well. It's systematic. It depends when it happens, but the diamond is more so against teams that will pressure you in a sort of with a back five, which Palace do, but they do it in a more aggressive manner. So it depends. This is one of those games where you could actually see both. You could sort of see this to begin with, and then it become a diamond later on. So I think it starts how I've got it here, in possession, but don't be surprised if it switches to the diamond based on how Palace press and how aggressive they are in the press, or how passive they are in the press. Because again, that could change things, especially when they're playing in a back five. Because that's why we did it against Inter. That's why we went into the diamond, because they went into a bit more of a passive 2-3 line of press. So it was more so like this. It was 2-3. So they basically had that already as a 2v1. So then when you make it the diamond, that's still a 1v1. So you're not losing numerical superiority by doing that. But again, check out my thread later. I'll touch on these things in that, because I've got a few bits to do. I'll probably go for another 10 minutes, because we need to watch. I've got to watch Brighton Arsenal. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking, by the way. But I need to watch Brighton Arsenal in 25 minutes. And right about that. Right about the tactics going on in that game. If you ever want just extra tactical details, by the way, like, I am going to try and start doing streams about other teams. If you'd be interested in that, just to literally break down all other teams. Won't just be Premier League; it'll be Serie A, which I'm watching a lot of this year. And if not, just go to my Twitter as well, because I literally post daily tactical little, like, snippets and threads on Twitter. Even if it's not about Chelsea, it'll be about all other teams. And I think you can always sort of, it helps learning. It helps sort of breed your knowledge of what you're seeing on the pitch. So even if it's on other teams, it still helps you to understand everything going on at Chelsea as well. And of course, a lot of my content is centered around Chelsea. So got plenty of Chelsea content. Plenty of Chelsea content. What's your prediction on the Brighton and Arsenal game? I'd love it to be a Brighton win, but I will probably go 2-1 Arsenal if I'm being realistic. But I would love it to be Brighton. Brighton's one of the teams I'm following heavily this year. In terms of analysis. So the four Prem teams that I'm heavily analysing this year are obviously Chelsea. That's a given. Then Palace, which coincidentally, that's who we're playing tomorrow. Brighton and Southampton. They're the four teams that I'm sort of like really focused in on. West Ham as well, to an extent, because of the amount of signings and Lopetegui and, like, a few interesting parts around them. But yeah, I've got quite a few Prem teams and quite a few Serie A teams that I'm watching extremely closely this year. Extremely closely. Was there anything else I was going to touch on in this stream? So we've sort of done the preview for Palace. Spoke about Sancho, Osimhen. They were the big bits of news. Answered some questions. Like I say, tomorrow probably won't be any YouTube content, but there'll be Twitter content. So keep up to date on my Twitter. There'll be lots of Twitter content. Then Monday will be things we learned from the Palace game. And then, like I said, next week we're going to have back to daily content next week. I've had this week off for my birthday and bits and, like, bit busy. So Monday, things we learned. Tuesday, stream. Wednesday will be a transfer, like, rating our transfer window video. Thursday will be another stream. Then Friday will be another video, which I'm still planning. So all 5 days next week, there will be content on here on YouTube. So drop a sub if you haven't already. I think we're going to end it there. We're at 340 views on Twitter, 60 on YouTube. Let me refresh. Have we managed to get it anywhere near 50? Up to 31. So if you're still watching with 57, even if it's on your way out, quickly drop a like. Help me get this to 50 likes before we end the stream. 57 of you watching on YouTube. Easily done. Everybody just drops a like. Happy days. Gonna end it there. Like I said, go check out my thread later today for the Palace game. Go enjoy the rest of your days, whether that's watching football, whether that's watching Brighton Arsenal, vice versa. But yeah, we're going to leave it there. Drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys all next week with plenty of content. Thanks for watching. And thank you, rich money makers.